Hello, I'm Bruce McIntyre, and I'm here today to talk to you about my recently published memoir, There Are No Answers Here, Only Questions. But before we get started, let me take a second to thank my friends at Boulder Bookstore for the opportunity to visit with everyone today. And if you don't live in colorful Colorado, the next time you're near Boulder, plan to stop by. I know they'd like to pay you a visit.
Bruce, will you give us a brief synopsis of your book?
Sure, I'd be happy to. There Are No Answers Here, Only Questions is the story of the summer of 2010 in my life, and it opens with me preparing to sell my business when, quite unexpectedly, I'm diagnosed with cancer. I needed to make a decision. Would it be best to put the sale on hold and treat the cancer, or treat the cancer and then resume the sale? But the more I debated that, the more I decided I needed to do both at the same time. But is that possible? Perhaps. But in order to do that, I would have to step back while others stepped in. And that's never easy when you're the boss.
What inspired you to write the book?
Well, I guess the inspiration or desire came from several areas. One is the idea of passing on those events to my children and grandchildren, kind of a legacy story idea, if you will. I'd been telling parts of the story for years, and so putting pen to paper seemed best. Also, the book allowed me the freedom to express many of my personal worldviews, because in memoir, unlike other writing, you have a chance to look back at what you thought then versus what you know now. And so that transition of my thoughts comes across in the book, and in a way that is told more in stories than by getting up on a soapbox to present my views. Also, I think when I was working on the book, I kept thinking, if telling my story helps anyone else, then that will be a benefit to them. So I think anytime people read stories of someone going through cancer or some kind of hardship, it can be inspirational to them.
Why did you decide you wanted to sell your business?
Well, actually, it was not our plan to sell. The plan was to transition the business to the vice presidents. But the more we talked about that, our industry, the food service industry, was consolidating rapidly, and the vice presidents felt, along with our consultants, that being part of a larger organization would simply provide more security.
Well, how did you originally come across the particular village in El Salvador that helped you to decide to help?
Oh, well, El Salvador is another story all to itself. I started going to El Salvador in 2005, and I went with Habitat for Humanity, and we built houses in various parts of the country. And before long, people from my church in Charlotte, Myers Park Presbyterian, joined on the trips, and we would build a house here and then a house there, different sides of the country often. And the new homeowners would want us to come back, but that would be difficult because on our next visit would be on the other side of the country. So finally, several of the church members, including myself, asked Habitat El Salvador if they couldn't find us a village that we could work in and come back to the same village each time. They found the small barrio of Gethsemane, which is just outside of Huachapan, up on the border with Guatemala. So we continued to go back there and build relationships with that community. And because everyone from the church didn't want to dig ditches and lay cinder block, many wanted to teach the children or get involved in healthcare or the arts or some form of community development. We met with the leadership of the small community, and they came up with a 6-part program that focused not only on housing, but on income generation, healthcare, education, leadership training, so that the project really became holistic.
What's one important thing you learned during the course of selling your business and treating your cancer?
Well, the most important thing possibly is in trusting others, in learning to rely on people who know more about a given subject than you do. I see too many, especially business owners, think that they have all the answers to something when, in fact, they may know their own business, but they don't know everything. If I break my leg, I would certainly rather go to an orthopedic surgeon than try and fix it on my own. So getting advice from others, I think, is important. And that's what I did both with selling the business and obviously with treating the cancer. And as I look back, I think I'd kind of been doing that most of my life. Whether it was financial planning or what it was, there were always people who knew more about the subject than I did.
What are a couple of books you've read recently that you've really loved?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I brought a few. The first would be Child. It's a memoir by Judy Goldman, and it's the story of her relationship with Mattie Cuff, a Black woman who was a live-in maid at the Goldman home and who helped raise Judy. So it's a story in the transition of their relationship. I highly recommend that. Another would be The Kudzu Queen, and this is a great novel by Mimi Herman. It's reasonably new, but it's gotten tremendous reviews. It's about a 15-year-old girl, Maddie Watson, and her dreams of men, not boys. When James T. Cullowhee, the Kudzu King, comes to their little county in North Carolina, and in 1941 spreads the good news of kudzu, which, for those of you who don't know, is a vine that takes over everything. But to the Kudzu Queen, kudzu was the next wonder of the world, would improve the soil, feed the cattle, and even cure headaches. So she falls in love, and it's a great novel. I know you'll enjoy it. The other thing that I've gone back to, because this has been around for a long time, is Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. It's a modern classic that continues to spark the minds of young and old. And if someone asked me for one book on writing, this is the book I would hand them. Although I probably wouldn't give them this one because it's all full of my notes and scratching with everything underlined. So I'd probably get them a new one. But Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott is a great place for any writer to start, or would-be writer.
Is there anything else you would want us to know about your book?
Well, I guess I'd want the viewers and potential readers to know that the book, while about cancer and business, is also about hope and about trusting others and finding whatever form of spirituality works for them. There's one section where I'm suffering from the harsh effects of the cancer treatment, and I asked the question, is it strength that builds hope or hope that builds strength? And that may be the most powerful question of all in this book without answers.
Can you read us a short passage from the book?
Yeah, and let me read that very passage. It's very short. It's titled Dark Night of the Soul, July 9th, 2010. I tried to go to bed early that night, but I spent most of the time doubled over the bathroom basin, coughing and gagging, waiting for some unnamed and unrecognizable internal organ to land in the sink. I'd bang my fist on the counter and scream at the face in the mirror, but the hard counter hurt my fist, and there was no sound to my cry. It was all a bad dream, like I was watching a black and white silent movie of a tortured face in a desilvered mirror. But I didn't recognize the film or the face and thought whoever or whatever it was, I didn't want to watch anymore. I was powerless and hopeless. Was this the dark night of the soul people talk about? Was this the time everything I knew no longer made sense? Would suffering show me the way? Is it strength that gives hope or hope that gives strength? It was dark and I was lost. So I went back to bed, hoping I didn't wake Joyce. She needed her sleep. Thank you. And again, thanks to Boulder Bookstore for allowing me to visit with you today. See you later.